FTX has been a sponsor of my channel.
Yeah, I was curious how you were taking that.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah,
for the last 7 months. It has been made me question every. I mean, I won't go into the details, but it has been probably one of the worst weeks that I could imagine. Worse than any breakup. I mean, I feel like I've done so much to just offer value, and then this happens, and it's been shocking to see how quickly people have turned. And a lot of them, when I really get into it, it's, you know, when I think objectively about it, I'm like, okay, you know, a video gets 300,000 views, got 2,500 comments. So there's 2,000 are negative. And when you think it's like, okay, that's 0.5% of the overall audience. Everyone has their own demand and expectation from me of how I should handle the situation. And it's frustrating because I have my own intuition of just what I would like to do. And I worry that's reactionary, that I'm only reacting because of this. And then I've seen other people who are in the same situation as me.
You stopped sponsoring them, presumably.
Oh, absolutely. I cut it before anything happened. So, I mean, the hardest thing, I guess, for me has been that people have, at least I feel like I've completely ruined the trust I had built with my audience over 6 years. Like, my entire life has been this. And it's gone from something that I had no idea about. And it's been really tough to deal with that and not know how to properly address it. I know how I would like to make the situation right, but doing that properly in a way that's not reactionary. People seem to have the assumption that I knew what was going to happen, or like, you know, of scamming and shilling. And I want to get your take on it from someone who's not in it, who could think objectively, who's familiar with it. Because there's the side of, you know, from a business perspective, you do not address it, you keep going. But then there's a different aspect of like, hey, this is PR, social media. I built my business on me. It's not like I am the business. It's not.
The big statement is brand over everything, in my opinion. Because like what you just said, like trust is what you've built your entire reputation on. I don't think it's as bad as you think it is, just being on the outside. Because I think anyone who's reasonable, like if people on Wall Street lost millions and billions of dollars here, like they were putting a tremendous amount of effort behind hiding, you know, what they were doing. And so anyone who I think is the type of person that you would want to be associated with your brand, there's the emotions of the situation. Someone might have bought, many people might have started to use FTX because of you, but whether they hold you accountable for what happened is kind of separate. And so I think that if you kind of like charge the shooter in terms of saying like, I feel terrible, like I lean towards owning everything and just being like, this is the relationship that I had with, I'm sure I didn't watch the video that you made, but it's like, this was the relationship that I had with them. They were a sponsor for my videos. Something felt weird, so I took it off. I've built this brand off of not shilling anything, really believing in products. Like so-and-so said they were the JP Morgan. I thought they were the most reputable brand. Believe me, I get brands every day who try and ask me to do stuff, and I don't do it because I value y'all's trust. Like I would never, for the money that I got from this, I could have equally just done something else. Like, you know what I mean? And just very clear, like, and this has been terrible for me. Like imagine everything that you've built for 6 years, you know, gets called into question because of honestly just a mistake, you know what I mean? And I think that the more you just own that narrative of like, this is my fault, I should have looked even closer. But at the same time, like,
I think you have to speak to them. They feel like, how are they feeling right now? Those people.
I'm confused because when I made the first video, it was a 2-minute, quick, right to the point, no fluff, no nothing. And it was really well received. Someone else, Coffeezilla, made a whole video. Immediately, I got thousands of people just flooding everything. When I look through comments, I do a search to see if they've commented before on the channel. I want to say 95% have never commented before on the channel.
So you already made a 2-minute video addressing this entire matter.
Yes.
What did you say, just so I know?
I said that FTX.com was experiencing financial issues. FTX US is separate from that, and right now is open for withdrawals. I said I cut my relationship with FTX. I would recommend you take your money out of FTX US. I don't know. Right now they're working and they claim they're separate. I don't know if I believe that. So I'd take your money out while you still can. And then I just made a little mention that, you know, this was a sponsor who I took them at their word. I was mistaken. I'm sorry for doing this. or I'm sorry that I apologize and it was a mistake. And I hope I'm wrong and this whole thing resolves itself, but in case it's not, then take your money out. I mean, that was 2 minutes just saying that.
If you covered the core, like, and you were early on it, which is great, like really good. And you were like, hey, take it out. Like and it was also before, like that shows you're protecting you're fortunate in that you didn't have to wait for everything to collapse before doing something. Like, was there brand damage? Yes. Mm-hmm. Is it permanent? No. Do people who are reasonable, who followed your stuff, especially because you made the 2-minute video beforehand, think that you are a shill? No, because they've been following your stuff forever, and you're so particular, and I also know you, that you're so particular about what you endure. Like, literally the whole conversation we just had about the stages and who you stand next to and the associations, like, we're so particular about that because we know how much it matters. And it's just one of those, like, it sucks. And it will happen, and life will move on. And when you're 85, you'll be like, yeah, I remember when that happened. That sucked. But like, it's not going to destroy your brand. I think the fact that you came forward, did it first, told your people to take it out, like, cause you were just not even, you didn't even wait for, you were like, I'm just not even sure. And that's enough for me to say, I cut my relationship with them and I told you to take your money out. Like, dude, I think you've done right by your audience.
I don't know. I feel like the long-standing audience does deserve something maybe more, but they want the whole story. Like, here's what I did. Here's the research I did. But I don't know also if those are people who just they thrive on that sort of drama.
I think if you feel like there are things that are unsaid that you feel should be shared, then share those. If you feel like that first video covered all the points, then
I feel like a lot of it would just be but defending myself, and that's where I feel like I'm at, just based on the comments. And then of course I feel like some of that, even if a person never thought of that before. Graham was scamming his audience, or he knew. Yeah. They see comments about they're like, wait a second, maybe these people are right. Yeah, he was scamming his audience. Yeah, and then I believe it's infectious. The other aspect is that a lot of people want to know how much did you make from the deal, and then to give it all away. And I have no problem giving it all away and not profiting.
If I can just count on this with like, you want to give the money away because you want to feel better.
Yes.
Like, just being real.
Yeah.
I don't think any less of your character because you had FTX as a sponsor. It could have been Coinbase. It would, like,
people make those decisions all the time. It just happened to not work out.
Yeah. Like, is there something realistically that you can add to the process for future sponsors?
Oh yeah. I mean, I just stay away from crypto.
Sure. Then add that. You know what I mean? By all means. But there was a crypto craze, and a lot of people were like, "It's the new money."
Yeah, well, that's why I thought of brokerage, not any coins or anything like that.
You're trying to do the
NFT.
most. You've always made the pro brand decision, and you made it then, and you made it early. The moment you sniff something, you didn't keep taking their money. Like, if you had at that point, like right when you were like, things are weird, I'm going to take the next check.
Yeah.
You know Aesop's fable of the man, the boy, and the mule?
No.
I think it's useful to know.
Okay.
So this is like a multi-thousand-year-old story. So there's a father, a son, and a mule, and they're walking, right? And all three of them are walking, and then people walk by, and they're like, what a waste of a mule. They're like, why would you have a mule walking when you've got, two people walking beside it? So the father puts his son on the mule, and they keep walking. And the next group of people come by, and they're like, what a terrible boy, making his old father walk next to him while he rides the mule. So they hear that, and then the kid gets off, and the father gets on, and they're riding. And the next group of people pass by, and they're like, what a terrible father, making his son walk next to him while he rides the mule. And so as they get into town, they hop off the mule, they take a stick, and then they tie the donkey's feet together, and then they put the stick over their shoulder, and then they start carrying the mule, like it hanging like a thing. And the moral of the story is like, all four of the scenarios are the four possibilities they could have done, and then of course people there are saying they're idiots too. And so it's like, you can't please everyone. And so it's like, you can only do the thing that you know is right. Mm-hmm. And you're the only one who has context on your situation. No one else does. The funny thing is that when we die, the only person who has full context on our scenario dies with us. Mm-hmm. And so like, you're the judge.
Yep.
So if you feel good, I'm like, rock. If you're like, I feel weird, then it's like, then get that handled and then be twice as loud, because you shouldn't have anything to be ashamed of.